We are live. Hey, didn't do the little countdown thing.
No, you got to do it manually. That's all right. Don't worry about it. It's just a spontaneous pod anyway. So,
Yeah. All right.
oh,
Welcome
I got the
to
Google Chrome alert though. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
welcome to a special edition of Post Game Beers, a spontaneous edition. I, Ray Cartwright, will be your host today. I am joined by the Sultan of Stat, Martin Guerrero, and we are blessed to be joined by the Master of Activities, JD Sailors. Fellas, how are we dealing with this frigid, cold weather today?
Ray, I do hear some echo coming from you, I think, real quick.
That's a tough one.
Martin, are you hearing anything weird?
No.
Off to a rip-roaring start.
Yeah, that's all right.
Did you know that TCU played their last game on June 21st? They will play their next game on February 16th. That means we are closer to opening day than we were at the end of last season. How excited are y'all?
It feels kind of crazy, doesn't it? I mean, it feels like we're just in Omaha, and I guess the cold makes it feel like we're so far away from actually starting frog ball.
No, I think the cold means that frog ball's coming soon. Winter has come. We'll make it through the long night, and then coming out of it, we'll have some frog ball greeting us.
Maybe.
Did y'all go to the scrimmages this weekend?
Oh, yeah. I was there Friday and Saturday.
All right. I can't wait to hear all about it then.
I was there Friday.
Martin, do you not hear the echo? Is it just me?
I don't really hear it from either one of y'all.
Okay.
I hear it a little bit in my ears.
Before we get into fall, do you guys know who Pete Donahue is?
Yeah.
Did he host the popular talk show in the 90s?
He's the guy on all the Taco Bell commercials.
It sounds like he's he's a meteorologist in the DFW area.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Doug also used to play baseball.
So Pete Donahue, he's actually in the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame. He's a right-handed pitcher. He pitched at TCU in the late 1910s. I think 1920 was his last season at TCU. He's not okay. So the what I found on him, I couldn't find a lot of stuff on him because he played at TCU over 100 years ago. But there's this book that's called "The Guy Who Replaced Shoeless Joe."
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so the guy who actually replaced Shoeless Joe was a outfielder from the University of Texas. So in this book, it talks about his college career and how I think it was a senior season they were playing against TCU, and they lost a game pitched by Pete Donahue, who threw a 3-hit shutout. And so they were talking about Pete Donahue's stats and how this guy is abnormal. So he threw, according to this book, he threw 8 career no-hitters while at TCU.
Does that beat the record?
I don't
Or
know,
sets
but
the record?
he lost 7 of those no-hitters.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Apparently, he lost 4 of those no-hitters to SMU specifically by a score of 1-0, 2-1, and 3-2.
Didn't do his job.
Here's what's funny about that. Apparently, in all of those games that he lost to SMU, the runs were scored by errors by Pete Donahue.
Yeah. So what we're seeing here is bunts, right?
Most likely, it's probably like the dead ball era. The ball probably wasn't going very far. It was probably getting hit to the pitcher a lot.
He probably couldn't field his position worth a damn, so everybody bunted against him.
Probably. So apparently he had a 45-10 career record at TCU, which would actually put him number 1 in the most wins according to TCU's record books. But I don't think they go that far back. There's like no records in there that were broken after like the 70s. So I think there's some TCU history that might have been lost.
That's honestly insane.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he went on to pitch like 12 years with the Reds. It's actually pretty funny in the book. They talk about the catcher, Astinax Douglas, was his catcher at TCU. The way they got Pete Donahue to sign with the Reds was by signing the catcher first. And the catcher, he played in 12 major league games with the Reds, and then Pete Donahue actually had a long career there.
So we talking about like the 30s? Like what time frame is this?
The 20s.
The 20s. Okay.
Yeah. 20s and 30s.
I wonder what the field quality was back then.
Yeah.
Like you got a literal goat in the outfield.
I wonder where they played.
Lupton. That's pretty cool.
I think so.
Good
I mean,
story.
it kind of just like ties a circle to all the Reds that are in the big leagues now.
Oh, I didn't realize Ray said he was having audio issues. I was like, hey, Ray, you can jump in
Oh,
anytime here.
Yeah, she's on mute now.
Yeah.
But I feel like it kind of ties the circle of time, you know, with all the former Frogs that are playing for the Reds now, and it kind of started there.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. The tradition, the pipeline, the TCU to Cincinnati pipeline started 100 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, we got Freddie Benavidez up there, who's the assistant manager. And so TCU has put 46 guys into the major leagues. Luke Baker became the 46th TCU player to make his major league debut. About a fourth of those have played for the Cincinnati Reds.
God, really?
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Especially considering how current the Reds roster is now with TCU players.
Yeah.
I wish Alec Thomas was on the Reds and not on the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
That dude's killing us, dude.
Yeah. He's batted like 230 all year, and he's like always on fucking base.
Okay, so here's what was really funny the other night. So it was when the game was close, game 2, and Tommy Pham, he hit a double, right? And it was 2 outs, and they decided to walk the maybe it's Gurriel who came up after Tommy Pham. And I was like, okay, I get the lefty thing with Alec Thomas, but I'm kind of more scared of Alec Thomas than anybody else in the bottom of that lineup.
Yeah.
And then they pick off Tommy Pham. They got out of the inning, and I'm like, good. And then, of course, you know, they come back the next inning. Alec Thomas leads off, first pitch double in the gap, and I'm like, Jesus Christ! Like,
good thing they picked off Pham.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said.
My favorite part of them picking Pham off was the cut to Mike Maddox.
Yeah,
you could clearly hear what he mouthed.
Yeah. Yeah, I think John Boy had posted that too. I didn't catch it live, but I saw John Boy. But yeah, my favorite part was not having to pitch to Alec Thomas with 2 guys on. Like lefty be damned.
Dude, that dude's fast.
Did y'all hear Brad's podcast talking about they were going over the Diamondbacks roster and they got to Alec Thomas and Brad and Jay were like, oh, he's a TCU guy, right? And they're like, no, I don't think so. And then Brad was like, well, how come every time Alec Thomas is mentioned, all the TCU people lose their shit on Twitter? And then Jay was like, well, I think it says he was drafted out of high school, but I think anybody that just drives down Berry Street gets affiliated with TCU.
That's funny. But it's true.
And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of true.
Yeah, the whole
anyone who takes an OV.
Yeah, we claim Bryce Harper for doing BP with a TCU shirt on.
It's pretty funny.
All right, so tell me about the weekend, boys.
Man, it was frog ball intensive. Although
Yeah.
I will say I did go out Saturday night with Chris Bowen and Brandy and Jamie to watch the World Series. And while the game wasn't very much fun, everything else around it was a lot of fun.
That sounds fun. I was at a Halloween party. Y'all saw the picture?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did your best Ken
Yeah, I was Ken.
impersonation.
Yeah, that was pretty
You were
fun,
Ken
actually.
without the abs.
Weren't you cold?
No, because they had a fire pit going, and I
Oh.
was inside most of the time.
So, gentlemen, let's
Yeah,
put a
y'all have
bow
a run
tie
sheet.
on
Go for it.
2023 real quick. You know, TCU, a very up and down season, but as soon as the calendar flipped to May, I don't know what seance they did, who they spoke to, but man, it was a completely different team from May 1st on.
I mean, was it?
think they-
Or was it just who they were supposed to be all along? It's not like they suddenly got good at baseball. They were just underperforming for large parts of the season. And then they stopped doing that.
Yeah, well, something caused them to stop doing that.
Well, yeah, I mean, we talked about it a lot. I mean, you know, they got healthy. Their freshmen grew up.
Curtis got
mean-
healthy. That was a big part of the
Yeah.
lineup. You know, he was bringing in everybody. Where through a majority of the season, TCU was they were having issues bringing in guys and runners in scoring position. You know, with less than 2 outs, and he kind of fixed that all on his own.
And then Luke Savage got healthy, and Ben Abelt and Cole Klecker stopped being freshmen and started being, you know, college baseball players. So that can turn your team around pretty quickly.
To say so, the season ends up. They make it all the way to the quote unquote Final Four of the College World Series, and in an epic game against Florida, their season ends. What, literally inches away?
Yeah.
From it continuing on.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good run. I need them to win it all one of these years.
Yeah. So it was a historic season on multiple fronts. We saw a bunch of offensive records get broken by Braden Taylor. We saw the attendance record get destroyed in super regionals.
Yeah.
And then this is also the first College World Series appearance since 2017, and it's the first time without Jim Schlossnagle, which I think is huge.
I
For
think
a
that's
program.
huge. Yeah.
I think you just evolve as a program when it's not just one guy taking you to Omaha. Like, yeah, we had 5 trips to Omaha during his tenure, but once you got an appearance with that second guy, it's not Jim. This is not Jim Schlossnagle's program anymore. This is TCU is an elite baseball program.
When you say that's a program taking the next step,
yeah, and it's funny you say that because I wanted to talk about next step too. So TCU, you know, great team, great season. Then I watched like Wake Forest and Florida, and it's like one thing that those teams have that feel like we don't is this just dude on the mound. You know what I mean? Like we have deep pitching, good pitching, but those guys, like when you have like who was the guy from LSU cat? What was
Paul
his name?
Schemes.
Yeah, Paul Skeens. You had that dude in Wake Forest, whatever his name was.
Brett Lauder.
They need a guy like that. And I was watching Ben Abelt, and I'm thinking this could be that guy. This could be that guy because they've always been missing that guy. Even the 4 years in a row.
I mean, they had it in Nick Lodolo.
They had Preston Morrison, who was the results. He had the results of being that guy, and then Nick Lodolo had the prestige, I guess, because he was drafted so high of being that guy.
Nick Lodolo never even made it to Omaha, really.
Right?
Was he on like the 17 team?
Yeah,
he was on the 17 team as a freshman.
But in what role?
So,
like
He was a starter. I think he was like the second or
Yeah,
third
he did.
starter.
I think he had. I'm trying to do this off memory, but I think he did have one game in there in Omaha that was really good. Was that
You know,
against Louisville? Did he start against Louisville?
I'm not sure off
Yeah, I
the
don't know.
top of the dome.
No, me neither.
But TCU's never had a flashy pitcher though.
Matt Perk
They
was
just
Yeah, okay. I was gonna get
okay,
to that.
Perk.
They had Matt Perk, and honestly, that
Brandon
2010
Finnegan
team.
was flashy.
But on their, you
Right.
think of a TCU team recently though. They've had very solid top to bottom pitching, but
Exactly, but
I
when you watch like Wake Forest and LSU,
Florida, LSU,
yes, don't you feel like
Arkansas.
they have an element that we're missing,
I think
and maybe that element is a 1-1 pitcher. You know,
I mean I
They don't
think
grow on trees.
no,
we've had 1-1 pitchers, and we've had, I mean, not 1-1 pitchers. 1-1 pitchers are pretty rare. I mean, most
yeah,
universities don't have that, but we've
no,
had
but teams that win national championships seems to have them, especially
yeah.
recently.
I mean, during Schloss's time, we've had really good pitching,
Yes,
and
agreed.
a lot of times that what was lacking was the offense. But I think what has hurt, I guess, the perception of TCU's pitchers lately is that every year we got a new rotation.
Yeah,
Where we don't have guys like Alex Young, Brandon Finnegan, Preston Morrison, who are in the
Brian
program,
Howard.
stay in the program, and they develop, in the rotation. They start as freshmen in the rotation. Every year it seems like we have a new rotation, either with guys that have been here or guys that have transferred in, and they're gone the next year.
See, and that's where this year, going into this year, you have a Cole Klecker, right? Was a dog as a freshman, and now will be back for a sophomore year. Luis Rodriguez could be that.
yeah, man.
Back
I
to
love those
Jacob's
guys,
point,
but
I
ahead.
do think Ben Abel is probably the best pitcher on this roster, though.
I agree.
I saw him pitch the first 2 innings. He started on the mound against Texas State. He had 4 strikeouts. His pitches were on point. They couldn't do jack shit with it. Now, I don't think Texas State is going to be that good this year. I don't think
No.
they're going to be, an out away from going to Omaha like they were 2 years ago. I don't even think they're as good as they were last year. What's his name? Chase Mora. I think he's out for the season. I think he had Tommy John surgery or something, because he was supposed to be a two-way guy for them.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's that kid on Texas State, right?
Yeah, he was amazing. I mean, they lost most of their guys, most of that experienced lineup that was hitting bombs on TCU last year in San Marcos. They lost a ton of those guys. Chase Mora was pretty much the only guy back. It looks like they're replacing him with Alex Gonzalez from Baylor. But he was in shorts, and I think his arm was in a sling. I don't think he's going to play.
And he played for Baylor, so I don't really care.
But we have a Baylor pitcher,
Who is it?
Blake Rogers.
Yeah, Blake Rogers.
And how did he do this weekend?
He pitched on Friday.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to tell.
What does that mean? Did he get guys out or did he not? Did he get guys out or did he not?
He did get guys out. He has one of those bowling ball sinkers. He's a sinker slider guy. Very easy for guys to get on top of and hit ground balls. I think he's still a work in progress. He's still pretty young. I think he was a true freshman last year.
Yeah.
Didn't pitch much for a very bad Baylor team, and they're just going to get worse. But
look, I hope he does well. But
so before we get too much into the weeds on who's here now, let's talk about what TCU lost to the draft and the portal, because it was a lot.
Did y'all plan for like a whole TCU baseball episode? Like,
we just didn't want it to be 10 minutes of, yeah, this guy was good on Friday in the spot.
Yeah.
Why not? All right, go ahead.
So
It's y'all show.
the thing about the guys we lost, I feel like last year TCU was at the peak of their developmental cycle with guys like Braden Taylor, Elijah Nunez, Cam Brown, Garrett Wright. We lost all those guys to the draft. River Ridings transferred to DBU. Luke Savage signed with the Rangers, and now Mason Speaker's not on the team. That's a lot of guys from your post-COVID recruiting class that were in the program. I mean, you had your highest position player ever drafted in Braden Taylor, and your home run record breaker. He's gone now. So
That does really concern me going into next year. You can get excited about all the transfers and
yeah,
everybody upcoming, but if it's one thing that I'm trying to teach myself is don't ignore what you lose. Like you're seeing it with the football team. Now it's different sport, but same principle, right?
Yeah.
You can't. Whoever we play at third base next year is going to be a downgrade from Braden Taylor.
Yeah,
and that's no knock on whoever that is. It's just going. It's a statement of fact.
It's the truth, right?
It's the truth.
And it's not just replacing their production, but also their leadership and these were the guys that held you accountable because they're the guys that have been in the program the longest.
Elijah Nunez.
Yeah. So we're kind of seeing a little bit of that in the scrimmages where guys are not doing what they're supposed to do. And Kirk,
can you give some examples?
I'd rather not.
Well, you don't have to name names. Just talk about what happened.
So there was a ball hit to the outfield, guys on first and second, and there's a play at the plate, and the pitcher did not move from the mound to back up anybody. And so they rolled it up. There was only 2 outs in the inning. And so as the pitcher is walking off the mound, Kirk was behind the plate. He was umpiring, right?
Okay.
So he meets that pitcher halfway to the dugout and ate him out. And then he just left.
He did what?
He ate his ass out.
Oh my.
But he
it's one way to prove a point.
He showing dominance. But
God.
It was a good minute where they were going back and forth, and then the guy just
was it what we would call a one-way conversation?
Yeah, and he just I guess he went to the locker rooms, and I don't think he came back.
Back to Baylor.
It wasn't him.
It wasn't him. There was another example of a guy not completely running out a ground out that really irked the coaching staff.
I think that was the team who made him run back. Is that right?
Yeah. He had to go back to home and then rerun it.
Yeah.
Little League.
Yeah. So the gray team. So he hits he hit a ground ball to like first base or something, and he stopped running. And basically the whole gray team met him at first base and made him go back home and run hard to first base.
Okay.
So Martin, with what was lost and what we're bringing in, where would you say TCU is at in their developmental cycle? Is TCU reloading or are they rebuilding?
I mean, you want to say that they are reloading, but the only way you can prove that is actually playing games and winning games. So
Peyton Tolley does help a lot.
Peyton Tolley does help a lot, and because he's a two-way player, he fills multiple roles for the team. I mean, he's going to probably be your Saturday starter, and he's going to either hit third or fourth in your lineup.
Yeah, he's going to be the anchor. Like imagine what would we be thinking about this season if not for Peyton Tolley? Like they brought in some good players, transfers. They have a good freshman class. They have good players coming back. But losing Braden Taylor, you're missing that star element. Peyton Tolley might fill that. At least I think he can. But
He
he's the only
definitely
one
has
I
the
would think is
potential to.
capable. Yeah, he has the potential to, and I think he's the only one who does have the potential to. So how would this be looking without him?
We'd have a lot more question marks.
Yeah, with the
Yeah.
rotation as a whole, with the pitching staff as a whole, because when you lose a guy in a rotation, it's not just that person has to be replaced. Those innings, that they start, where their starters has to be replaced, but you're taking those innings away from guys who could pitch in the bullpen. So those innings now have to be replaced in backfield.
Yep, and we saw that, last season.
Yeah.
When we had to move, because like Cole Klecker started in the bullpen, and then, due to performance injuries, whatever else, he had to come up and start. And it's like, okay, now what are we gonna do about the bullpen? Like, cool, Klecker's doing well as a starter, but
it's like the cartoon meme of there's a leak, like and then you try to plug it with one finger, but then another leak
one
springs up. Yeah, and so you're trying to constantly plug these leaks or whatever.
Getting your toes in there.
Yeah.
And it's not just Braden Taylor. I mean, we lost
Richardson, Elijah,
4 of our top 5 hitters from the lineup that we had that won the Big 12 and that we took to Omaha. We lost 4 of the top 5 hitters. So that's going to be, luckily, you're going to replace one of those guys with Anthony Silva, who was batting like 8th or 9th most of the year last year.
Yes.
And you're Carson Bowen still an anchor. You got Curtis Byrne.
He's the one guy back that we had in the top 5 last year.
He's the one guy back from this program. Now, a guy like Peyton Chattingneer, he's had 500 at-bats in college at a very high program.
I think it's even more. He's definitely a safe bet to plug that hole at second base. Jack Basir. Okay, let's talk about the guys who are coming back. So we got Carson, we got Silva, we got Luke Boyers, who's literally the same guy we've had the last 3 years. We got Curtis Byrne.
Logan Maxwell.
Logan Maxwell, who's also literally the same guy we had in left field. So was that about half the team?
Yeah, so we're replacing.
I think you're starting lineup at least.
First base, second base, third base.
Mm-hmm.
Center field.
An outfield position. Luke Boyers will play center, but an outfield, so right field, really, is what we're replacing.
I think somebody has won the center field position.
Okay,
I don't think, and it's not Luke Boyers. I think Luke Boyers will be in right field. No, not Logan. Logan will split
Jack
time
Arthur?
and left. No.
Chase Brunson.
Chase Brunson.
Yeah.
Brunson, freshman.
Who the
So
fuck
Chase
is
Brunson, he was the late commit to TCU.
The kid from California?
Yeah.
Yeah, from San Clemente, California.
Okay, so tell me about his performance.
So he was a late commit. He flipped from Loyola Marymount.
Right.
He was drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays in the 18th round. I think he was offered like $100,000, and he turned it down to get to TCU.
Yeah, so I remember his story getting to TCU, but this is kind of a curveball saying he's vaulted himself up into the lineup like this.
Yeah, I had asked around, like, why was this guy not like highly rated? Why was he committed to a team like Loyola Marymount? Apparently, he doesn't play in the highest, the highest competition in that league that he was in California. He's not playing like Orange Lutheran or Notre Dame or whatever. So I think he's a gem. I think TCU found a gem in this guy. He has good size. He's pretty fast. He's been playing center field basically since day one in the fall, and he has pop in that bat. I've seen him play. So he's a right-handed hitter. I've seen him play 3 or 4 games, and he's got like 6 doubles and a deep sac fly in San Marcos.
I've seen him go yard. The very first inter squad.
Okay.
He hit a home run.
So
And by
Brunson-
size, Jacob, just for reference, he's listed at 6'3", 190.
oh shit, I didn't know he's so big.
He looks really good. He looks like a ball player. He makes good contact. He has pop in the bat. He's fast. He can steal. He can play good defense. He's got an okay arm. I mean, I
And
think
by
the
good
defense will be pretty
defense,
good.
on Saturday, he went and robbed a home run over the center
I like
field
that.
wall.
That's better than giving up home runs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have Brunson, Boyers, Maxwell. I mean,
Yeah.
so what do we think
And-
about Jack Arthur right now then?
I mean, he's a JUCO guy. He might just. We've seen a lot of times where JUCO guys don't get playing time right away, and then the next year they're really good. So, I mean, there's still hope for Jack Arthur. He just hasn't separated himself in fall.
Okay.
Jacob, I've got a name for you too that will be in competition, for split playing time with either Logan or Luke. And that's the name Jake Dewar.
Okay, that was literally who I was going to ask about next. So tell me about his weekend.
Because all he's done is torch the ball. I mean, he's made really good hard contact. He's hit a couple of home runs. Even his singles, there's really good exit velo on those. They're not little bloops. I mean, they're stroked into the outfield.
Yeah, I think Jake Dewar is challenging for some playing time. He can play any outfield position. Everything coming off his bat right now is a line drive.
As everyone likes to say, his launch angle is good. He's got good launch angle.
Did he hit a home run? He hit a Oppo taco. That's what he texted me, right? On Saturday.
Yeah, he went opposite field. He hit a double on Saturday and then a hard single on Saturday. In the time that I was out there.
Okay. Jake Dewar, nice. Okay, so who else?
So I think Peyton Chatinier, I think he's pretty much locked up second base. What I heard when I was in San Marcos was TJ Bruce, because a lot of Peyton's stats don't really pop out to you in his time at Ole Miss. He doesn't have that many steals. He doesn't have that many walks. He does have double-digit home runs a couple of years. His last 2 years, he has double-digit home runs at Ole Miss. He is fast. Like, he has range, and he's quick. Like, he's definitely a first to third guy, but he just doesn't have a lot of steals. And I think with what I heard in San Marcos was that TJ Bruce was revamping his swing. So maybe because he was batting either second or leadoff. So I don't know if they're trying to convert him into a leadoff type hitter. But he could be another SEC guy, a guy who comes from the SEC who played, 4 years at a SEC school. Somebody like Gene Wood, who just comes to TCU and just totally becomes a different player.
Forgot about Gene Wood.
Yeah.
The stash.
When you said Chatinier didn't have a lot of steals, were you talking about his time at Ole Miss?
Yeah.
I wonder if that's more of a kind of an offensive philosophy thing.
Could be.
Yeah.
So, Martin, I guess a big question, it seems we've got shortstop locked up. Second base is pretty well locked up. I think, you could still get some challenge from Ryder Robinson.
So he hasn't played a lot. I've seen him take practice at first base, and he's been playing in left field when I think Logan was there on Friday. I think the guy who might actually back up second base this year might be Micah Kendricks.
He's another one that's had a good fall.
Yeah, that dude he's pretty similar to Jake Dewar, as in everything off their bat is basically a line drive.
Another guy with good size too, 6 foot, 185.
I think
Could Micah Kendrick challenge for third base?
I'm not sure. The bat plays, but I think
Who's playing third?
Jack Basir.
Jack Basir. Yeah.
So I think Jack Basir has a head start on third base, but Brody Green might challenge him because Brody Green is also having a really good fall.
I like that.
One of the games I was there, he actually hit a home run.
Yeah, that was on Friday. And he hit a home run in San Marcos.
And how about first base?
I think it's going to be a platoon this year.
So first base is actually the most interesting position
That's
because
because Tully's in the mix, and then you have lefty righty stuff. And
so the guy who I think actually plays the most first base hasn't even played a game at first base this fall. I think it might be Curtis Byrne.
He was playing out there yesterday.
Was he?
Yeah, or on Saturday, I should say. He was playing first base, and it's funny watching him play first base.
Is he blocking the play?
Yeah, he still has that catcher mentality. Like one of them, it came in on a short hop, and he went down to get it, but he used his chest to block it. And I'm like, you're not wearing a chest protector anymore. Those balls sting a little bit more whenever you take it off the chest. Now, he still made the play.
Yeah.
But you can definitely see here he still has that catcher mentality when he's playing first.
I like it. I don't think Peyton Tolley is going to play a lot of first. I think they're just going to.
That's fine with me.
Just to have him, more focused on pitching and hitting bombs. I think he's going to be our primary DH. The guys that are taking reps at first for the most part, because with Carson out, he just had surgery. Curtis has been catching a lot. So I mean, and behind the plate, he looks really good. He looks healthy. He's also stroking. He's having a really good fall.
It's nice to not have a broken back.
About Curtis, he also looks lighter. Looks like he came in and lost a little bit of weight over the from last year to this year.
I think
pep in his step. Did he leg out a double or leg out a triple in San Marcos?
It was a double with a fielding error, and I think they gave him a triple, which was pretty funny.
But Curtis is also one. He had an Alpo Taco on Friday, and then he put one in the bullpen on Saturday.
Yeah, he's having a really great fall. He looks really good behind the plate. So if Carson, for whatever reason, isn't ready, there's no drop off with Curtis being behind the plate. But the guys that have actually been taking reps at first have been Gabe Miranda and Zach Wattis.
Zach Wattis was also wearing the yellow jersey.
Yeah, I think that was for
over the weekend.
Academic excellence, I think it was.
Yeah, for excellence.
Oh. See, I saw the pictures. I thought the yellow jerseys was just like team yellow versus team. I was like, well, that's weird, but
okay. So there's
they have 3 different jerseys.
Yeah. Red, yellow, and blue.
Yeah.
What's red? Hurt?
Energy.
Red, energy.
Okay.
And blue is selflessness.
Who was wearing? What pitcher was wearing red? Was it Sloan?
Yeah, it was Sloan. No,
and then
was it Sloan? I think it was Hoover. It was Hoover.
Hoover. Okay, yeah, it was one of those two. Yeah, so Hoove was wearing the energy. He was bringing the energy. Carson Bone was wearing selflessness because even though he's hurt right now, he still gets to the batting. He still gets to the field an hour and a half before practice and helps his teammates, get ready for the day in whatever way he can. He's just a leader.
He was taking reps at first base, which I thought was interesting. He like a month away from his surgery on his shoulder. He couldn't throw the ball, but he was taking reps at first. His dad was saying that he might swing the bat next week.
Yeah, and so he did have surgery. It wasn't, anytime you have surgery, it's kind of major, but it wasn't like for anything that was torn or his rotator cuff or anything like that. I think it was to clean up nerve damage that he had. So hopefully he should be ready for the start of the season.
Yeah. And so then behind the plate, we've talked about Carson. We talked about Curtis. Another guy that I saw in San Marcos, Tim Reynolds.
Who?
Exactly. So he's that's why I'm talking about him. So he's a transfer from Midland.
Okay.
He
Not the AA team either.
Yeah. The bat's a little light, but he came in after Curtis, and he caught 5 innings in the scrimmage against Texas State, and he looked really good behind the plate. He was basically a wall back there. Anything in the dirt, he's blocking. He looked really good receiving the ball, framing the ball. He looked really good behind the plate. I think if Curtis is catching, I think he's going to start the game. And if Carson is catching, I think he's going to start the game. So it's not really Tim Reynolds is the third string catcher. I think he would be more of a backup catcher in case somebody needs a rest or something. But
yeah, I mean, you could use that way. You can keep Curtis in at DH
right
or first base.
Yeah.
And not have to worry about if like something unfortunate happened and you had an injury during the game or whatever. You still had
Tim Reynolds has
catcher.
Tim Reynolds has the most compact swing I've ever seen. I mean, it's like hands to the ball, no wasted motion.
And I think where when you say the bat's light, I mean for a catcher, normally your catcher's bat is going to be light. That's not a position that you expect a lot of offense out of. Now, TCU's been very blessed over the years in that they've had really good offensive catchers, but that's not normally the case, right?
Of course.
I mean, think of back to the World Series, Game 1, when you see Austin Hedges come in for an at-bat, and it looked like me out there.
And Austin Hedges is their third string catcher. He's their third catcher on the roster.
And he's a defensive stalwart. He's really good.
I've never seen him play.
I saw him he was with San Diego and then he was traded to Pittsburgh before being traded to Texas.
You know what's funny about Austin Hedges? So he's with the Padres. He played AAA in El Paso. To know how much of a hitter's park that is, I mean, Austin Hedges hit like 400 at El Paso.
All right. Are y'all about to talk about pitching? I got to jump off.
Yeah, we're going to move into some pitching talk.
Okay, y'all go ahead. I'm going to catch up on YouTube later.
All right.
Yeah. Be sure to like and subscribe.
Yep, I'll get around. I might leave a comment. We'll see if I'm busy. All right, see you boys.
See ya.
So Martin, you've been into a lot of inter-squad scrimmages, and you've gone down to San Marcos.
Yep.
Who on the staff has kind of stood out to you through the first 3 weeks or so of fall ball?
On the mound, I think so. Benabelt probably had the best 2 innings that I've seen this fall against Texas State. He threw 2 perfect innings, had 4 strikeouts. I think Peyton Tolley also had 2 perfect innings with 4 strikeouts. Those guys look really good on the mound. That Saturday when I went down to San Marcos, their velocity looks up. I don't know if the gun.
But I heard it was a hot gun.
It was a little hot. I don't think it was too hot. It was just kind of wonky. It wasn't always working. Sometimes it was maybe like a mile hot.
So Also, so we've got some pitchers coming back that were on the squad last year coming back from injury. How
Yeah.
does Caveman Parker look
So
to you?
in San Marcos, he was leaving the ball up. So he was getting hit a little bit. He threw 1 inning. I think they scored like 2 or 3 runs off of him. It was basically all the runs TCU gave up in that first 7 innings.
But isn't that kind of normal for
Yeah,
a pitcher coming off of Tommy John? That of course there's going to be a lot of rust there, and this is where you can work that rust off.
yeah. Apparently that was his first like live competitive at bats. He left the ball up a little bit, but then on Friday he also pitched on Friday in the inter squad game, and he looked a lot better. I think it was 3 up, 3 down, but he looked a lot better. I mean, he's gonna have rust. This is the time to shake it off, but he looks good.
Another pitcher that is coming back from injury that I saw, I think it may have been the first time, I don't know, was Luis Rodriguez.
He pitched on Saturday.
He pitched on Saturday, pitched an inning. Looked pretty good. I mean, it was regular Luis Rodriguez, outing,
Mhm.
nothing too
89, 90.
around there. I don't remember looking at the radar gun too much whenever he was pitching. I just thought it was really good to see him back out of the mound.
Yeah, he
More than
hadn't
anything.
pitched. Or at least I hadn't seen him pitch any. I guess until Saturday. Somebody who's looked really good with the velocity is Jax Traeger. He's throwing like 95. That's what he was throwing in the summer. What was
He went up to Milwaukee, right?
It's like
Somewhere in
Rockford or
Wisconsin.
something. Is the Northwood League?
Somewhere in Wisconsin. Right?
Yeah, he was throwing like 95, 96 up there, and it looks like he's brought it back down to Texas. He's up there, 95, 96. Looks really good. That fastball looks like he's getting a lot more swing and miss on it.
Yeah. So Jax is someone that is going to have even more of an importance this season because a week before fall ball started,
Mhm.
Cohen Feaser had to have Tommy John. And Cohen Feaser's 23 was that was an interesting ride for Mr. Feaser, wasn't it?
Tell us about it.
So he goes through fall ball last year, had some ups and downs, and TCU had a lot of extra pitching depth.
Mhm.
And so he was beaten out on the roster and was basically cut from the roster. But then Brett Hansen, the Vanderbilt transfer,
Mhm.
got injured. And then he transferred out. So then that opened a roster spot. So TCU baseball went back to Feaser and said, "Hey, would you be interested in coming back?" Which Cohen definitely was.
Yeah.
Comes in the bullpen, and then in 23 had the team's lowest ERA out of the bullpen. It's a pretty cool story.
Yeah. It just kind of sucks that he had Tommy John surgery.
Well, that's just another chapter in his journey here at TCU.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, Feaser will miss all of the 24 season.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer to a bullpen that's already lost a lot, right?
Yeah.
Lost Luke Savage, Garrett Wright, River Ridings to an extent, though they didn't use them much. And Cohen Feaser with injury. So who are some of the guys that are going to have to step in and fill these voids in the bullpen for TCU?
I mean, the obvious guys probably Hunter Hodges, Jax, Traeger. Hunter's a transfer from UNC, Wilmington, right?
Yep.
From a couple years ago. He's probably going to see a very elevated role. Apparently, he's throwing like 97, 98. He's probably got the best velocity on the team. So he's going to be really important. Jax is going to be really important. He's going to see a huge increase in his innings, I believe, this year. And let's see.
Now, there's also some new faces, and you were talking about Ben Abel. Is he going to be in the bullpen? Do you think he's in the bullpen, or is he going to be in the rotation?
So I think the two guys that have a rotation spot locked up for next year is probably Cole Klecker and Peyton Tolley. Ben has kind of struggled a little bit in the fall.
He just said he had the two best innings out of any TCU pitcher.
Ben Hampton, sorry.
Oh, Ben Hampton.
Yeah. Ben Hampton,
Ben
transferred
Hampton.
to Virginia. So he was all conference last year, but he's had some trouble keeping the ball in the yard this fall. Seems like every other tweet from TCU data.
Yeah.
Seems like it's number 11 on the mound, turning around and watching it fly.
See, it's funny because I don't know how to react to that, right? Because on one hand, it's dang, Ben Hampton's given up a lot of home runs.
Yeah.
But the other, our offense mashing.
Yeah.
We're cooking.
Yeah. So I mean, and then that's part of. I think it's really important to see against other competition, which really sucks that the Sam Houston thing got, I guess, postponed. I don't know if they're gonna.
I think they're gonna try to make it up next weekend. Is what I heard. I don't know if it'll be Saturday or Sunday because I've heard both, but I don't know which of those days.
Because Sam Houston, after it got postponed, I think they played Blinn in Huntsville. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're gonna have to link up again. But hopefully get that in before the purple. Is it going to be purple white or purple gray World Series?
Well, they call it the purple white World
Yes.
Series,
Mm-hmm.
but one team's going to be in gray and one's going to be in purple.
Yeah. So if there is questions about Ben Hampton, then I think Ben Abel. I mean, he is only 19 names on the roster on the website.
They haven't updated it yet.
Yeah,
that's the reason why.
They updated after fall ball. Would you like a fall roster, Jacob Sailors?
At JD Sailors, master of activities, master of all things.
So if Ben Hampton doesn't, lock down that starter role, I think Ben Abel could be in the rotation. He's, like I said, I think he is the best pitcher on this roster as far as he could probably take it the furthest in the pros.
Yeah. Now, I see when looking at the roster, I see a couple of names that could actually fill that Sunday role. Of course, Luis Rodriguez.
Okay, name one that's not coming off an injury.
Man, okay, though that eliminates about half the list because I was going to go Caven Parker after that.
Yeah.
But you also have Braden Sloan and Chase Hoover too.
So Sloan, I think is still coming back. I think I talked to his dad, or was that Hoover's dad? Who was there on Saturday?
Sloan.
Okay, he was saying that that he didn't feel right all of last year.
Yeah, he had hip surgery in July.
So, I mean, he's still, I guess, technically coming off an injury. But he's saying he's feeling a lot better. Yeah, he could be another guy.
Okay, so let me put this in another way. So last year...
So the reason I say that is I just think the guys that are coming off the injury, I think they would just feel better working those guys back either in the midweek rotation spot or out of the bullpen.
Okay. So you think of TCU baseball last year, right?
Mhm.
And all these freshmen that stood out. All right, am I back? Gosh.
Yeah.
Who are some of the freshmen that come in this year that could potentially be like a Cole Clark or Rodriguez in a belt from last year?
Let's see. We got Mason Bixby, who's probably the highest rated in this recruiting class out of San Antonio. Big guy, 6'7".
But like you said,
He's also coming off an injury, or he hasn't.
he had Tommy John last year.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he
he's still
hasn't.
working back from Tommy John.
Yeah, he hasn't pitched much in the fall, or he hasn't pitched at all in the fall. Let's see. Camden's he's third base. Let's see.
Carson Comier.
Yeah, he's looked
got
good.
some run.
I don't think he's gonna. I don't think he's gonna challenge for a spot in the rotation. He might be in the bullpen. Oh, a transfer. I got a transfer who might.
Who dat?
Zach Morris from Arkansas. He's gotten a lot of run in the fall. He pitched two. Go ahead.
I was going to say him and Andrew Luziello
Yeah.
have gotten a lot of innings.
Yeah, I think it. Yes, it's probably gonna have to be one of these guys coming off an injury, huh?
Of course. I mean, sorry for everyone listening. I am battling a major echo right now, and it's really throwing the momentum all the way off.
Sorry.
But as a professional broadcaster that I am, I will power on and power through. Another pitcher that's gotten some run that met us at a couple of meetups last year. I think he walked at Heim. The regional game against Oral Roberts was Zach Collier.
Yeah, transfer out of McClendon. Yeah, I've only really seen him pitch one inning in San Marcos. I think he pitched that final inning. What was the score, like 15-8 or something? So he gives up one run, but he looked pretty good. I think he was like 93, 94. I think he's going to be coming out of the bullpen, though. But he looks pretty good.
Another pitcher that'll come out of the bullpen he's just an interesting looking guy, right? Whenever he throws, because it is a completely different arm angle than you're expecting, is Colt Taylor.
Yeah, he's a little funky. He's a transfer out of Tennessee Tech, who's not really known for their pitching. They had a run a couple years ago. I think it was like 2018, where they led like the country in home runs. I think runs scored too. I think they were playing like in a bandbox of a stadium. But so he comes from Tennessee Tech. He's a grad transfer. He's a guy who the numbers don't look spectacular at the places he was before, but he could be a guy who, with the right coaching and the right staff and the right guys playing behind him, who his numbers could, if he's put in a position to succeed, he's a guy who could he could be like a Sam Stoutenborough. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, I mean, so you say he could start and then carry the team to Omaha?
It's possible. I mean, if he works out. But Sam also had kind of a funky delivery too.
Yeah, it wasn't. But Sam was a left-hander too, right? Which made
No,
it.
he's righty.
Oh, I'm thinking of Ben Abelt, who's got a funky delivery from the left side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a guy. Cole Taylor, he could be a guy who's like a long man who, if we need a start during the midweek, it could be him. But there's a lot of guys this year who can start. So it's gonna be really interesting. Who's the midweek starter? Who's the Sunday starter?
So right now we're through. I think we're entering the third week. We may have completed 3 weeks of fall ball. If you had to project out a weekend rotation right now, who would your 3 be? Obviously, Klecker on Friday, Tully on Saturday. Who would be your Sunday starter?
Right now, I'd go with Ben Abel.
I like it. Really strong. And he went multiple. He had the ability to go 3-4 innings last year.
Yeah, he's got
You
that
think
velocity up, and he's like 93, 94. He's really good. Like I said, I think he's the best pitcher on the staff.
And then for midweek, now usually it's been TCU's wanted to use midweek starters for freshmen. And I don't know if that's just they've had to do that or
I think that was more out of necessity, trying to use that midweek spot to kind of grow one of these freshmen into a weekend starter role. I think this year they might not have to do that. They have a lot of experienced guys who can step in and give you a better chance to actually win those games. They could go a variety of ways. They could go with an experienced guy with either Ben Hampton or Ben Abel, whoever doesn't. But if Ben Abel is not starting for you in the weekend rotation, I think he's more valuable in the bullpen, so that you can win more of those weekend games as opposed to winning a midweek game.
yeah. So I kind of think if you have a belt in the rotation,
Is going to
that
be
you
on
would
Sunday.
use it. Yeah, no. If you have a belt in the rotation to fill his spot in the bullpen, I kind of think that was where Zach Morris fits perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you got Ben Abel in the rotation on Sunday, then most likely Zach Morris will be in the bullpen, be that like first guy out of the bullpen, the firefighter guy or whatever, the guy to put out the rallies, and then if you have Hampton starting on Sunday, then you'd have Ben Abel in the bullpen, and then Zach Morris becomes a guy you might start on midweek.
You also, there's so many options. Just thinking off the top of my head for that midweek starter.
Yeah,
You could still have Chase Hoover.
Yeah.
You still have Braden Sloan.
If you wanted
You
to
have
go
Caden
young,
Parker. You have Luis Rodriguez.
Yep. Caden Parker, Luis Rodriguez, I think those are the front runners if you wanted to go with the young guy. Then you have Chase Hoover.
Caden's a junior.
Is he like a redshirt sophomore?
Well, I guess technically.
Yeah.
But all that to say, he's not the spry young.
Maybe he ends up being like a Mitch Traver.
Could be.
Mitch Traver was probably one of the best midweek starters TCU's ever had.
I would really like to see my ideal situation for Cademan is that he takes, that he's the midweek starter, maybe not even to begin with, because I do think they're going to be slow with him.
Mm-hmm.
But that he pushes for a weekend rotation by the middle of the season.
I like it. it's just hard to say for guys like Cademan, guys like Luis Rodriguez, who have not really pitched much in the fall. It's hard for us to say where they're going to be in February when the season starts, if they're going to be ready for that.
Yeah, for sure. But you can go off past previous knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Cademan was a midweek starter whenever he came to TCU's freshman year. Luis Rodriguez bounced around. He got a midweek start, was in the bullpen, was the closer for a little bit before ending up as your Saturday starter before you got hurt. And, attrition will happen, and that's where it's good to have this kind of depth that TCU's amassed down in there, that, you have 6, 7, 8 guys. You're like, man, I've got to find roles for these guys.
Yeah. One thing that we know about TCU as long as Kirk has been here, is we have arms that are going to go pro. Like,
for sure.
I don't think there's ever been a TCU roster that didn't have multiple arms in there that, ended up going pro. So we know the arms are there. We just got to see how it's going to work itself out.
Oh man, I lost. I was trying to think of what I was going to say next. Completely lost it. So if you're thinking of the way the bullpen's going to be constructed, right?
Yeah.
You probably pencil in Hunter Hodges as your closer.
Yeah.
You have multiple options in setup men. I think Zach Morris. I think of Jax Traeger to an extent for those kind of roles. And then you've got, other guys that can slide in, like I think an Andrew Mosiello could be a really useful if you need multiple innings out of a guy.
Yeah.
Zach Collier could be that.
Yeah. Blake Rogers, the transfer from Baylor. I think he could be another guy like that, a multiple innings guy. He's got like a bowling ball sinker. He's a sinker slider type of guy. I think he's like 89, but the sinker gets a lot of break. So it's very easy for guys to hit over the top of it. So he's a pretty good guy coming out of the bullpen.
And that's the thing with TCU. And I was just thinking about our conversation earlier about how TCU's never had that 1-1 starter, right? They've had guys in the past that were no doubt like that's your best reliever coming out of the bullpen, right?
Yeah.
Who would you say is that guy going into the season with just limited knowledge of like, this is a high pressure situation? Who would you want to be that guy coming in?
If Ben Abel is in the rotation, in the weekend rotation, I think that guy is for sure Hunter Hodges. If Ben Abel is not in the rotation, then I think you got two of those guys, and Hunter Hodges and Ben Abel. Pretty similar to last year with Garrett Wright and Ben Abel at the end of the year.
And it makes me think, and this is why I'm not paid the big bucks to make these kind of decisions, but I almost kind of feel that Ben Abel could be more valuable to you out of the bullpen, where he could give you multiple outings in a weekend, as opposed to a Sunday starter where it's just one game, right? And if you have multiple options that you feel decent enough to fill that Sunday option, that maybe Ben's more valuable to you out of the bullpen.
Yeah. I mean, some guys do it that way. Some guys do it the other way. Some guys like to have a shutdown guy that they can count on to be the first guy out of the bullpen, with the middle of the order coming up and guys in runners in scoring position. a lot of guys like to have somebody who they can just call up and end that rally, and some go the other way and just put their best starters in the rotation. So I think
So I
Kirk
kind of
is.
think, like, Abel, you remember Arkansas a couple years ago had call the cops, call the cops.
Oh yeah,
That Ben Avelt could be that type of pitcher, be that type of weapon for TCU.
yeah. I mean, it's just gonna. And how does Kirk feel about the rest of the pieces in his bullpen? I mean, if he has somebody else who he feels comfortable with, and you can get max value by having Ben Abel in the rotation and having your shutdown guy out of the bullpen. It's all going to come down to how does Kirk feel about how he can win the most games.
Another thing that we've talked about a lot through the years of doing this podcast is that TCU hasn't had a lot of left-handed pitching. But I look at this roster and I see a fair amount of lefties.
Yeah, last year they really didn't have any at all. They had just a couple guys. They had Ben, they had Hoover, and they had
Sloan.
Sloan.
This year I see Ben Hampton, lefty. Ben Abelt, lefty. Braden Sloan, lefty. Zach Morris, lefty. Chase Hoover, lefty. That gives you quite a bit of options to mix and match, right?
Yeah. I mean, there was a time back when we were going to the College World Series every year where they were kind of loaded with lefties. Brandon
Oh,
Finnegan.
and Peyton Tolley's a lefty too.
Yeah, Peyton Tolley's a lefty. But back in the day, we had Brandon Finnegan, Alex Young, the guy that got drafted by the Dodgers. What's his name? From Southlake.
Man, I'm
Alexander.
Oh, Tyler Alexander.
Yeah, Tyler Alexander. Nick Lodolo. We had a run of really good. Who's the other guy with the Reds?
I forget how to say his last name. Antone.
No,
TJ.
no, he's a righty. The other starter with the Reds, the lefty.
Oh, Brandon Williams.
Yeah, Williamson. Brandon Williamson. We have a track record of having a lot of lefties, but the last 2 or 3 years it kind of went dry.
So that's another, teams usually like to stack a lineup, and I don't know how much they do it in college as opposed to pros.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they just order it in that way to where if you have like a Cole Klecker, a righty starting on a Friday, well, then you can bring all these lefties in out of the pen and really do some damage.
Yeah, I think one of the most right-handed heavy lineups was Texas last year. I think they just had Porter Brown was the only lefty.
And I don't think that's changed because they brought back a lot of that lineup from last year.
Yeah. But yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's good to have options.
For sure.
Got a ton of
Martin,
options this year.
This has been fun. On the fly, spontaneous recording. We'll do it again here in a couple of weeks once the purple-white scrimmage is over to really recap and dive a little bit more into some frog balled USA.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode. Please remember to like and subscribe and leave your comments. Let Martin know how he did today. Until next time, go Frogs.
I'm not going to do
it. Come on. Do it. Give the people what they want.
Go Frogs.